Well, wow. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about how to advance your tech career and give you some serious tech career tips from a tech career coach. You know, one of the reasons I wanted to hold this discussion is for the last 20 some years, I've been advising people how to change careers. And often, people's past lives actually can help them or hold them back, is truly how they actually manage their careers. So, I want you to have strong tech career growth. And I want you to understand tech career leadership. I don't want you to make the common tech career mistakes that most people do. So that's why we're here. We'll cover your tech career key skills because they're different for every different tech career. And the tech career skills that are in demand in 2023 are great for each individual career. A cloud engineer has their skills, a DevOps engineer has their skills, an architect has their skills. And all of this is simple if you have no background, no experience, get an incredible education and start your career. But what if that's not the case? What if you've been a cloud engineer and want to become a manager? What if you've been a cloud engineer and want to become a cloud architect? What if you were a network architect like me and now want to become an enterprise architect? Did the skills that you have serve you, that you had that got you to this point where you can apply for these jobs? Are they going to work for you when you're in your career? I'm going to tell you a secret. In most cases, they won't. And if I tell you one of the biggest tech career mistakes are, as we move up in our careers, we go back and we train what we love. We focus on what we love. We focus on what got us here, not where we need to be in the future. I've got people from 3 different backgrounds in here, and I love that. I've got Alonzo, who's got a great marketing background and a great program manager background. I've got Chris, who is a general manager of a hotel, who's an expert at delivering things on time and on budget and making sure stuff gets done. I've got me. I was a firefighter paramedic for a long period of time. I was a nurse for about 6 months. And then I was a nurse practitioner for about a year. And the next thing I realized, I'm a network architect. Whoa. And some of the things from my past lives helped me. And in many cases, they actually hurt me. We're going to actually talk about that. So we'll get into the content. Alonzo, Chris, you want to say anything before we begin?
Well, I want to welcome everybody to Head in the Clouds. Since you didn't welcome anybody, you just said, here we go, here's what we're going to talk about. So welcome to Head in the Clouds, everybody. This is our regular weekly show that we do on Tuesdays. So we're glad to have everybody here. Like Mike said, I'm Chris Johnson, I'm the Chief Operating Officer. Mike is our founder and CEO, and Alonzo is our Chief Marketing Officer. And we're here to share insights and experience and mistakes and all kinds of and successes and all kinds of things to try and help you along in your career journey. And so, like Mike said, today we're going to be talking about your past experiences and how to utilize those or drop those or take some of it with you and leave some of it behind, whatever the case might be. We're going to be talking about that today. So I've got my normal things that I like to tell everybody about, but I'll let Alonzo say a few words before I share my things.
Okay. Well, first of all, I am always excited to see these two guys here all the time. I think yesterday, if you missed yesterday's special webinar with Dr. Long and Dr. Cooper, along with these two gentlemen, unfortunately, I had prior commitments. I had to help my son with his testing. So I was in the sideline sitting in the parking lot while I didn't get a chance to enjoy all these wonderful things. So check that out after you are done with this awesome podcast here. Refer back to that to help you with any of your, just to be successful and just refer back to that as well. But also I wanted to say a heartfelt thank you so much for wishing me a happy birthday yesterday. That was awesome. I was getting things from our Slack community. I was getting happy congratulatories on LinkedIn and so forth. So it really, really excites me and generates so much energy so that not only are you wishing me a happy birthday, but we're able to connect at Go Cloud, I can't even speak, Go Cloud Careers, and be able to just do what we do and be able to express and share the knowledge that we have. So I'm just very excited. And I think there might be something going on that maybe Chris might want to say. I'm not sure if I can say it right now. Let me know if I can.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll let Mike or Alonzo say it. I just threw it out there to you, so I'm sure
Yes.
some people might enjoy it.
Well, you know what? Tell you what, our fearless leader and Mike's and Chris's idea, they have afforded you an opportunity at a
Wait. I got to make sure it works first. This is really impromptu.
I think we need to check that out first, Chris.
Well, I'll go ahead and say it, but
Okay.
Before anybody uses it, give me like 5 minutes. I got to make sure it works. But
Okay.
go ahead and say it.
Let's hold it towards the end.
Okay.
That way it'll be a reward for anybody that sticks around.
We got some good news for you, so stick around. You'll be glad you did. But
Right. While Mike is over here running his mouth for like 50 minutes at a time, instead of buzzing him, I'm going to make sure this thing works before we surprise you all with it. But anyway, yeah, I just thought about that. I was like, that's a good idea. Let me make sure it works before we tell people about it. So all right. So make sure you stick around. You don't want to miss out. So happy birthday, Alonzo. I hope you enjoyed it sitting there in the parking lot.
I'll enjoy it this weekend instead.
I was going to say, that's how everybody wants to enjoy their birthday, sitting in a parking lot. All right, before we get into the topic of discussion for today, let me tell everybody about a few things. So of course, we've got our Q&A tomorrow at same time, same place, right here, 2:00 tomorrow. We're going to have our YouTube career Q&A. Thursday, we're going to have our regular How to Become the Ultimate Cloud Architect webinar. But instead of only being on Zoom, we're also going to do it here as well for you on YouTube. So that will be Thursday at 1:00. And then next Tuesday, we've got a special guest for our Head in the Clouds episode. We've got David Linthicum, who I'll let Mike share some words about him. He's more familiar with his background and his expertise. But it's going to be a great show. So if you want to make sure you don't miss any of these 3 things that we've got coming up or any things that we have coming up in the future, make sure to sign up for our mailing list. And Tyrone will put that link there in the chat box for you. But I'll let Mike share about David and what we're going to be talking about with David. And then I'll tell you about a few other things.
So it's next week, right?
Yep.
Correct. Next Tuesday.
David Linthicum and I are going to host a live 2-hour discussion on generative AI and the future. And David and I have both been in this industry forever. We've both been tech executives forever. You know, he's been CEOs and CTOs of IBM and a whole bunch of other companies. He currently works at Deloitte as the chief of strategy, but, you know, he's going to come here as David, as an IT executive, as himself. But he's known everywhere. I'm known everywhere. The two of us have worked with pretty much the largest organizations in the entire world, whether they be internet service providers, whether they be banks, whether they be the largest global enterprises. We've consulted both to them. And we're going to share the reality of what things are doing, how they're coming, and how you can leverage them to build a better career and learn more about it. I'm all excited about it. Who knows? You may see more discussions between him and me in the future. You might. But whenever we can get big tech leaders that actually have a voice and they know how to do it the right way, we like to bring them to you, whether it be my friend Alvin, who's a VP at NVIDIA, whether it be my friend Andrea, for example, who periodically comes on, who's over at Versa Networks as a global program manager. We brought you Daryl over there. He was from Dell as a director for a long period of time, senior director. He's now at Palo Alto. We bring you lots of good technology professionals, sometimes some great recruiters, and David is going to be someone you definitely want to hear for. So back to you, Chris, and then we'll get into this fun discussion today. And Chris is talking to a mute button.
There we go. All right. So make sure to sign up for our mailing list so you don't miss out on any of those exciting things. And just this week, and between yesterday and next Tuesday, we'll have Dr. Johnson, Dr. Long. We've got this show here. We've got a Q&A tomorrow. We've got our free webinar for you tomorrow, and then we're going to have David Linthicum. All these things in a period of 8 days. So imagine what we're going to be doing for the next year, 2 years, so on and so forth. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure to sign up for that mailing list. Also, to go in line with today's topic, I want to make sure that you're aware of our Why Tech Skills Aren't Enough guide. This is critical for anyone that wants to be in a high-paying, high-end position. And I just want to make sure that you have access to it. You know that it's there. It's completely free. So don't hesitate on taking advantage of that. And Tyrone's got that in the chat box for you as well. So without any further ado, let's get into the topic of discussion here. So I'll let Mike start it off. You know, this topic came about we were talking about, we always get asked about experience. We always get asked about previous experience. And a lot of the times we answer it from the perspective of people that are coming from non-tech careers, because most of the time, those are the people that are asking, do I need experience? What if I don't have any experience? Well, today, I'm fairly certain we're probably going to be talking about this from the perspective of people that do have tech experience. And what that looks like as you try to move farther up the ladder in your tech career. So I'd like to let Mike start it off for us, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about, do the skills you have now, which worked for you for now, are they the right skills for the future? We are going to talk about and address at some point the thinking patterns you have now and the timelines that you have now. Are they relevant for the future? And then we'll get into architecting your tech career. And we'll address it the same way we would design an architecture, from where you want to go, what you have now, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope that there's a lot of good lessons for all of you. I'll give you an example. I didn't come from tech. I paid my way through school by being a firefighter paramedic, which I loved. And then all of a sudden, I'm a nurse practitioner. And I'm using a non-tech career for a reason, because I think it'll be easier to understand as an example, and then we'll get into the tech careers. I love being a firefighter paramedic. And you know what? I was darn good at it. And I used to teach too. And here was the thing. Someone would call 911. They have chest pain. And here's what would happen. We'd show up. We'd ask the person some questions while we put some oxygen on them. We would take their vital signs, blood pressure, pulse, respirations. I'd start an IV. I'd give a sublingual nitro. I'd give a little bit of morphine. And I would take them to the hospital and do the EKG on the way to the hospital. 15 minutes later, we're on the hospital. The doctor has an EKG reading. We've already managed the patient's pain. At some point, hopefully, they called the cardiologist to the ER, and they determined whether they need to do a cath or give a drug to dissolve a clot like TPA. And boom, it was done. Now, that job, and I loved that job, was very mechanical in nature. Everybody had chest pain. Guess what we did? O2 IV monitor. They used to call it one word. Everybody got the sublingual nitro, and everybody got the 2 to 4 milligrams of morphine. We took them to the hospital. And we were real good at keeping people alive for 15 minutes to an hour. Now, fast forward, 7 years later, I'm now a nurse practitioner. And now somebody comes into my office with chest congestion / chest pain. Now, I do an EKG, and I notice it's not a heart attack. They didn't dial 911, and that's a good reason. In this case, it wasn't a heart attack. Now I got to go think. Do they have inflammation between their ribs called costochondritis? Are they having an anxiety attack along the way? Is their blood pressure elevated? What are their lipids like? Are they diabetic? Are they not? And not only do I have to worry about what I need to do for the next hour, I now need to build a treatment plan for now, next week, and the next 50 years of their life. Everything changed. In one place, I was focused on what was directly in front of me. How do I keep this person alive for the next hour? And in my new career, I was effectively being an architect. What do I do now? And how do I keep them healthy for the next 50 years? Totally different set of skills, totally different set of thinking. Now, but a couple of things. Now, when I worked as a firefighter paramedic, did I get skills? Yeah. Did I learn how to operate in a crisis? Yeah. Do you think I don't use that every day for the rest of my life? I sure do. I also got to learn, hey, yo, Joey, start that IV right now. Sam, put the oxygen on. James, drive that bus to the hospital, lights and sirens. Worked great inside of 15 minutes. Now, Chris, do this now. Alonzo, do this now. I'd be looking for a new staff in about 5 minutes. Because the leadership style that worked in a crisis does not work in a long-term environment. So I took that long-term crisis management skill with me. Great. I took the staying calm under pressure with me. Great. I even took the how do I ask people the right questions out of this past career, and I left the rest of it behind. Now, I didn't completely forget it. If someone has chest pain and it's an emergency, I'm going to do the same thing. But in the rest of my life, I can't. And why am I saying this? Well, here's where most people destroy their technology careers. Let's say I've got a really great engineer, network engineer, cloud engineer, I don't care, just a really great engineer. And this person has a deep understanding of how the tech works. They're an expert at building it. They're an expert at troubleshooting it, and they love it. Guess what? They're a great engineer. Say a top 1% engineer. Now that engineer says, Mike, I want to be a manager. Guess what? All the troubleshooting experience they have, no longer relevant for the most part, and we'll talk about why. Good knowledge in the back of their head so they can guide their team, but not really relevant anymore. All that hands-on how to build, no longer relevant. Why? They're not going to build anymore in their life. Now they need to learn how to bring out the best in others because they're the people that are now building it. Now they need how to manage the upper management. Now this person might need to have a budget. Now this person may need to maintain a profit and loss for the department. Now the person needs to have difficult conversations with someone and get them motivated when they're not working. Now the person needs to figure out how to get that. Let's say they've got engineers working for them and they want to be architects. How do I help build their career development plan, how to get there? Then, how do I hire somebody? How do I interview people? How do I fire people? When do I lose people? How do I lay off people? Notice the things that I was talking about had nothing to do with the person's personal life, previous life. And what do most engineers do because they love technology when they move into management? Do they study management? No, they go back and study more engineering stuff. Guess what? It's not their job anymore. And what ultimately happens is they become better and better and better engineers. They don't do anything on the management side and they get fired. Poof, they're fired. Now what happens to someone's career when they've been fired? Doesn't look good on your resume. Let's take another common transition, the architect. You've got an engineer. Let's say they're a fantastic engineer. The best of the best. Good. They know how this stuff works. This is a win. This is good information. But now they're experts at building it. Do architects touch the technology? No, they're not even allowed to by their companies. Now that engineer that's an expert at building it, now they carry a sales quota. And if they sell, they earn more money. If they don't sell, they get fired. So sales skills become one of the most critical skills that the architect has. Now the architect's no longer building stuff, they're designing plans. So it goes from a career of how to why. Now the architect has to go figure out how to design what the company needs. So the architect now needs to talk to the corporation's executives. Anybody know what the average time that a CEO pays attention to? 5 to 20 years based upon the company. That engineer is focused on stuff today. I'm going to build this today. Now I got to communicate to a CEO that needs 20 years. And if
I thought you were asking what the attention span was. I'm like 0.
I know. Yeah, 0. And if you want to learn a lot about, the theory and organizational theory, there's a really good person. His name is Elliot Jacques, and he actually came up with these things. But it was really good, and most strategy consulting organizations use it. So CEOs focused on things that are 20 years out. Chief operating officers focused on things that are 10 years out. A general manager or a VP is focused on things that are 5 years out. Frontline managers focusing on 3 months to a year out. Average employee is focused on things today. So now you got to go talking from people about what is today to talk about how do we plan for the 20 years in the future. Architects do this every day. Now I got to tell you, Now the architect now needs to speak to executives that have their own care abouts. And the engineer needs to focus on how to make the technology work. Guess what? The architect now needs to focus on how to communicate to every one of those chief level executives, C-level executives. Now, the C-level executives think about, how does this impact my financial performance? How does this impact my financial performance? How does this impact my financial performance? Engineers, and we need them. How do I make this thing work? Completely different set of skills. Now, the architect is going to have to manage stakeholders across the company organization. The engineer needs to make the technology work. There's a reason I'm going through this skill difference. The architect needs to present at conferences. The engineer needs to focus on the tech. The architect now needs to respond to RFIs, RFPs, and RFQs, requests for proposals, requests for information, requests for quotes or price. Engineer is now building stuff. Architect needs to lead a team of people. Engineer needs to focus on doing it themselves. The architecture or transition architectures that an architect may be working on may be one that's going to impact the business 3 months from now, 3 years from now, and then 10 years from now. Engineers focused on what's in front of them. So what do a lot of the big mistakes people do when they want to go from cloud engineer to cloud architect? Here's what they do. I don't want to lose my tech. I'm going to go focus on being a better techie, a better techie, a better techie, a better techie. They still practice coding, which is not a skill that architects will use. They'll focus on their Terraform, which is what architects don't do. They're going to be playing with their Linux boxes, which architects don't do. And in the end, what do you have? You have a really great engineer who made themselves a better engineer. They desire as a career as an architect, and they're the worst architect out there. Why are they so bad? Because all of their focus has been on the skills from their old life, and none of it is on the skills that they are in their new career. So they become a better engineer and a worse architect. What happens? Everybody else gets promoted, everybody else gets paid more, and they get fired, and then they go back to another job. So here's the secret. We have to focus on the skills for our future career. The career we want determines the preparation, the training, and the ongoing maintenance of all the things that we ever need in the future. So, does your thinking gleaned from your past life help you with your new life? I promise you to some degree it will. The key is, which ones can you take with you? Chris, I plucked you from the hotel industry.
Correct.
You now run a tech education company with me.
Yep.
What things from your hotel industry that you use every single day right now?
Critical thinking,
Mm-hmm.
People management,
Mm-hmm.
just right off the top of the box, right off the top of my head. Project management's not the right word, but you know me, although I have a master's degree, I'm a very practical person. So I don't think in very classical terms or very neat, like nice framed words terms. But so I'm just going to go ahead and say it how it actually is in the real world. I brought with me how to get done. How to get things done. How to get things done.
Get it done.
That's what I brought.
Get it done.
That's what I brought with me, because I mean, and I'm glad you brought this up, because this is what I was gonna, and if you don't mind me derailing you for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. That's something that I really wanted to make sure that we talked about is, we talk about it all the time. Life is cumulative. Experience is cumulative. And you're going to have things from your previous experience that will benefit you in any future role. It's just a matter of figuring out what it is, what to bring forward into your future career. I mean, I don't do scheduling like I did at a hotel, but the thinking processes of being able to put all the pieces together for a schedule, whether it be weekly staff schedule, or it be the schedule that goes into the pre-opening of a new construction, like the critical thinking aspects that went into making all those puzzle pieces fit. I use them every single day, and I'm just not the best at putting it in nice flowery terms. I just do it. So when somebody asks me, I'm like Mike just did, I'm just like, yeah, I just get things done. I make things happen, and everybody's satisfied because we reached the goal.
Sounds like a
On
producer.
time, under budget, and everybody's happy.
Chris is a technological producing, leadership infused solution problem solver. I got to find a way to put that all together in some kind of acronym or something. I got to brand that for you.
No acronyms,
Look up
please.
the definition of chief operating officer. Have fun with that one. See if you can find a consistent definition of that throughout all the companies in the world.
Well, okay, so now while we're at it, so I found Alonzo. He had taken all that silly AWS certification training. He had a stack of certifications and couldn't get a job. We retrained Alonzo like we retrained everybody else.
Yep.
We got him a job on the cloud. I begged him to come back. Chris helped me with that because we love Alonzo. He's like a brother to me. And wanted him part of this company, and he does so many good things for our students. Alonzo, at one point you were in advertising. How did you determine what kind of advertising campaigns to run and what it needed to look like and what it needed to feel like? And is any of that related to what you do as an architect?
There's so many parallels. You have to look at the market. You have to look at the industry. You have to look at what the business is doing, what their market share is, how they move, how they communicate to their target audience, what type of goals that they're looking at, where are they at in their current state, where do they want to be in their future state. The marketing plan is a way of getting there, ergo the transition plan that you would find in TOGAF. So it's the same thing here. This is like you look at your customer. What are their pain points? What are their KPIs? What are their goals? What are their transitions? What are their resources? Who are they marketing to? Who are their customers? Who are their stakeholders, their shareholders? How do you make them happy? Where you want to go with this cloud or this campaign? You see the relationships here. It was the same premise. So being able to use what I had many moons ago and transition that into becoming a cloud architect, it's the foundational knowledge of how we all accumulate as professionals and leverage it here. So it was an easy transition to do.
Okay, now part of marketing is figuring out what the client wants, right?
Yeah.
Part of it's determining the pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it's determining the promotion strategy. And the last part is what product to produce, right?
Right.
So before we get into architecting your architect career or architecting your manager career or architecting what any other tech career you're doing, I want to go to Alonzo for the marketing perspective. This is a reason. First part is finding out your client's needs, right? We need to know what our client needs and or wants.
Yes.
Then we need to produce what they want. Then we need to determine what price we're going to charge. That could be salary the same way. And then we determine how we promote it. So here's where people go wrong. They don't ask or find out from the executives that are hiring. They find out from their peers that have never had the job in the first place what they think they want. Mm-hmm. And in the end, here's the product they produced. Techie, 1,000,001 certifications, which employers don't care about. And then they try to promote themselves by talking about that. Now, when you got a hiring manager or a client that wants this, and what they see is this, it's the same thing that happens when I try and pass off sweet potatoes to my cat. She comes over, she sniffs it, and then she makes a funny face, and then she runs across the room. I love sweet potatoes, right? It gives me the energies to be strong and, do my yoga each day and do my physical therapy, physical training. But my cat isn't going to eat it no matter how much I package it. Now, if I put tuna down, you can see my cat. She can be outside. She'll be meowing at the window. She comes in. She can smell the tuna. She's going to go find me, chase me to that can opener, eat the tuna, rub up against me, and take a nap because I gave her what she wanted. So you have to be what your client wants. Whoever's paying you, that's the product you need to produce for them. What do they want? And it's not what you used to be. It's what they want now. And that is the biggest mistake people actually make. They think the stuff that got them to the point in their career that they wanted are the things that are going to get them to the future. I'm really grateful I had a manager 20 some years ago. I had a bunch of certifications. I only put 2 or 3 on my resume. The CCIE, because everybody knows it's the king and the queen of all certifications. It's the hardest one in the world. I put the CCDP, which was the Cisco Design Professional one. And I had the CISSP because it's a security architect certification. I had 3. And then I got promoted into this lead enterprise architect for an entire industry vertical of healthcare. And my manager said, get that stuff off of your resume. Get that stuff off of your business card. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I read 75,000 pages for this CCIE. It cost me close to $40,000 from the time I was done to the time I did it. Because in those days, it was a harder 2-day exam. Borrowed money from family members, maxed out my credit cards, borrowed money from friends. It was terrible, but I paid it back. And now my managers are saying, take this off? Huh? What? And then he said something to me. And he said, Mike, he said, tomorrow you're going to go meet the health minister of Scotland. He said, 2 days after that, you're going to lead a business council of all C-level executives. He said, right after that, you're going to present to the Secretary of the Navy and a couple of admirals. Do you want to look like the techie? Or do you want to be one of their peers that's an executive with them that can show them why you can solve all their big challenges? And I said, got it. My manager then said, want to go to some executive training? And I said, yes. And he sent me to probably $100,000 of executive training. He said, you need an executive coach too. Get one of them. Oh, and Mike, I need new suits. I need new shoes. I need different watches. I need different belts. I need you to be somebody else. Now, if any of you are familiar with the Pink song called Misunderstood, where in that song there's a quote where she says, Ellie told me you'll be a rock star, but all you have to change is everything that you are. Well, he said that to me, and I heard that Pink song in my head, and I went, whoa. I happen to like Pink, but anyway, I heard that Pink song, and I said, all right, if this is what I want to get, and I'm now a golden retriever, and I need to go look like a German Shepherd, shave off the old fur, get some new fur, and all of a sudden I'm a new animal. And that's what I did. And I will tell you, it made several $100,000 difference in my salary over the next few years. And poof, I was there. And I kept getting promoted and promoted and promoted, and I completely forgot about my old life. Because
so
that was
the story is listen to Pink. I think that's
well, listen to Pink, yeah. And that's the key. So what does that mean? Let me describe the enterprise architecture process, the cloud architecture process a little bit, and let's bring it back to your career. I get a call from a Fortune 100 company, a big bank, okay? And the first thing they say is, Mike, I want to go to the cloud or something like that. Yeah. Now that basically tells me nothing. The first thing that I need to say is, could you tell me the vision for your business? Another reason I don't want engineers to be architects, because this is where the level must start. And they say, well, currently we do we do $36 billion a quarter of revenue. Our operating margins are 37%. Net income last year was $76 billion. We're thinking about doing a layoff and getting rid of about 10% of our population and something redundant. We'd like to enter these new markets. We would like to achieve this. We want to be the market leader in X, Y, and Z. And I say, okay. The first step of that process is with them saying, this is where you're at now. And this is where you want to be in the future. And they say, yes. What do we have to do? We have to figure out what's missing between the current state and the future state. We do that via, it's called the gap analysis. We'll get to this for your career in a minute. Right after that, I then need to go back to the executives and back to the department heads and back to the leadership and say, How's your business make money? Well, we've got this investor trading side, we've got this market maker side, we've got this payment side, we've got retail lending side, and we make money via any one of these things. And I say, got it. And then we map out, they make money this way. A financial advisor sells a stock that says how they make money this way, they make money this way, they make money this way. Back end stuff is done X, Y, Z process. Then what do I need to do with them? Well, here's your architecture vision. Here's what you want the business to do in the future. How do we need to optimize the business to make it work in the future? Okay. Now we're going to determine the delta or the gap between them and figure that out, how to get there. Now, I'm not going to go to all the TOGAF stages, so I'm going to combine the data architecture, technology architecture in one. Okay, client. Now I got to go see what their Terran technology looks like. What's it look like? What's working well, what's not working well, what's their uptime, what's their availability, what's necessary for the business. Boom. Now I've got to say, okay, if this is what they have now, but they want to operate the business this way in the future, what are the pieces of technology they have? Now, and what do they need then? And whether it's new applications, new networking, new security, new storage, new compute, whatever it is, we've got to go figure that out. So that's a future state or a 2B target architecture. What do I have to do now? I have to do another gap analysis and figure out what's necessary to get from point A to point B. Now, along the line, now somebody's going to have to build this. Architects don't touch technology. If you tried to touch the technology at AWS or Azure or Google or Deloitte or Accenture or KPMG or Capgemini, if you tried to touch your customer's network, you'd be fired and escorted out of the room by security. We designed it, another team does that. But, here's the key. We may have to figure out, I need 10 DevOps engineers, I need 3 cloud admins, I need 10 cloud engineers. We've got to go figure out the people necessary to get it. So, what people do I have? What people do I need in the future? What kind of training do I need to do to the Karen people to get them to work on the future? Do I get rid of some Karen people? Do I hire new people based upon the future needs? Another gap analysis. Are you sensing? Requirements first, map it out. Requirements first, map it out. Current state, map it out. Future state, map it out. That's how we design any architecture. Cloud architecture, enterprise architecture, network architecture. Now, anybody who's following like an AWS well-architected framework, they got none of that. Here's how you configure the technology. Here's how you design the technology to make it work. That's not architecture, that's engineering. There's no architecture in the well-architected framework. Here's how to use our stuff. And I don't blame Amazon for doing it. Every company is going to have their well-architected framework. And what's it designed for? Making the tech work. Is that a good thing? It sure is. But it doesn't drive transformation. And that's why it won't help the architect drive transformation. It'll help them figure out how the company's technologies go with other, which is a little bit of architecture. But it ignores all the other vendors and things. So it actually prevents transformation as opposed to driving it. So what does that mean for your career? And how do you architect your career? Well, let's go back to the same TOGAF methodology. Oh, by the way, you know what I did when I practiced medicine? I architected people's health. Somebody comes in, they've got a problem. It's called the chief complaint. I ask them questions. I examine them. Stethoscope, otoscope, ophthalmoscope for the eyes, whatever. I make a diagnosis and I build a plan. So the medical process, the architecture process are pretty similar. So here's the questions I have for all of you for your career. Where do you want to be? 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and 20 years from now. You must know that. If you don't know that, you're aiming for a moving target and you don't even know what the target is. In 20 years of cloud career coaching, network career coaching, security career coaching, tech career coaching, you know what I found? Almost nobody knows where they want to be 20 years from now. They don't know where they want to be 10 years from now. They don't know where they want to be 5 years ago. Some people don't even know where they want to go to tomorrow. So first we need to figure out where you want to go. Now, what kind of thinking is necessary for this career? What do I mean by that? If I'm an admin, I'm going to be an administrator, I'm thinking directly what's in front of me. today. How do I do today? How do I add Alonzo Coleman as a user that has these permissions on this system? That's what I'm doing as a cloud admin today, or a network admin, or a sysadmin. Now, what if I need a cloud architect who's focused on the next 5 years? Am I thinking in today's thinking, or are I thinking more strategically? Now, here's the rub here. If you want to be an admin or an engineer, you must think about what's in front of you. Must. If you've got a router and it needs BGP on it, you can't think 10 years from now, because if you do, you'll miss what's in front of you. Now, if you're staring at what's directly in front of you, guess what you can see? Everything else, including the future. For any of you guys that doubt this, here's what I want you to do. Go out and look at something that's directly in front of you. Now go back 1,000 meters, 1,000 yards, I don't care. Now go look at it. Do you see a different view? Tonight, I've got a lot of telescopes in my house. I like telescopes. I even have telescopes that you can measure distances with. It's really cool, by something called a reticle inside them and milliradians. But I love telescopes. So tonight, if I go out and look at the sky, I can see the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, the moon. I can see the clouds. I get a big picture. That's the architect view. Now, let's say I wanted to zoom in with one of my cool telescopes and look at the moon. I can see the craters. When I was a kid, they used to joke and say the moon was made with cheese. I've never found any cheese on the moon, but Alonzo remembers those days. But, you know, I can see the craters on the moon, but I can't see the sky. So first, we need to figure out your thinking. What kind of thinking do you need? And I don't want to say this because it sounds terrible, but we become a product of our environment. If you spend your life with a bunch of rich people, you're going to learn how the rich people think. How do they delay gratification? How do they invest their money? Where do they spend their money? And they tend to spend it on investments and education and art and things which provide pass-through income. If you spend money with people that have less money, they typically tend, not always, statistically speaking, tend to spend it more on what's directly in front of them in terms of needs or what's fun. And it doesn't matter. My point is if you want to catch up with somebody, you know, you want to get sick and everybody's got COVID, go to the room with the COVID people. You want to get healthy, go to the gym where everybody's eating right and working out really hard. Chances are you're going to eat right and work out very hard. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Now, the next part of architecting your career. What are the skills necessary for your future career? The one that you actually want. Not the one that you have. The one that you want. Which means if somebody becomes an engineer, chances are they need to code in their life. Somebody wants to become an architect, every minute they spend learning coding is doing two things. It's changing their thinking to engineering versus architecture, and it's giving them a skill which serves no benefit to their career whatsoever. But presentation skills actually do. Leadership skills actually do. Executive presence actually does. Emotional intelligence. So look at your mindset now versus your mindset for the future. Does it need to change? Figure out how to do it. Go look at your skills. Look at the skills to be elite at your new job. What are the skills that you need for them? What are the skills that you have now? Perform a gap analysis. Now, here's what you're going to find whenever you do these plans. And I like to say we need to do triage. Triage is a French word that says to sort. From a firefighter paramedic perspective, we triage all the time. In healthcare, we triage all the time. We prioritize. So now when you've got a list of skills, trust me, you're going to come up with 40 or 50 things that you need to learn. There's the most critical, there's the stuff that's important, and then there's the stuff that's nice to have. Most critical first. So you want to be an architect, if you can't sell, forget it, get a new career. Right then and there. If you don't want to take training to sell, don't even bother. Because you can have all the certifications, all the knowledge, and if you can't sell, nobody can hire you. Because your whole goal as an architect is to sell the solution to somebody. So get sales training if you don't have it. It's a solution. But I'm saying that's critical. Stakeholder negotiate skills. Absolutely critical. Can't get the job without it. Presentation skills, critical. You can't even pass the interview without it because most cloud architect presentations include an interview. Can you launch a Terraform script? Might be a nice to have to say I've done it in my past life, but guess what? You're not going to do it in your life, so don't go learn somebody else's job just because you think it's going to make you better. Focus on the critical first, then focus on the good enough to have, the most important, and then all that other stuff, get rid of it. I have a yoga instructor that likes to say, let go of that which does not serve you. Let go. It's not useful for you. Now I need you to build that plan. What goes into that plan? I need to learn this. Now, as an architect, I might say I need security at the edge of my network. So I might call Palo Alto. I might also call Checkpoint. I might use 2 sets of next generation firewalls. I want to change careers. Okay, I need to learn how to sell. Go Cloud Careers will teach me, but if I don't want to go to Cloud Careers, I can go to the Dale Carnegie Institute in New Jersey. Now, you may pay $5,000 for learn how to sell for the week that you're there, which is double our cost of a whole program, but you'll learn to sell. And guess what? You'll be able to get the job. I don't care where you get the education, but you got to figure out what your gaps are and figure out where you get the education to get there. For every one of those critical skills and every one of those super important skills. That's how you architect your career. Now, Chris or Alonzo, is that any different than the way our students design an architecture for the clients?
Not at all.
Nope, not at all.
Chris, if Hilton wanted to start a new hotel chain, would they do anything different than that?
Nope, not at all.
Alonzo, we want to launch a new, Alonzo, we want to launch a new product at a major organization, like a brand new kind of car. How much different is the process?
None. Little to none.
Little to none. Now, what did Toyota do which changed the world versus what the Americans did with their cars 20 years ago? I can tell you the process. This is why the American car industry is dead.
Yeah.
And it all started because of what Toyota did.
Mm-hmm.
The American car company, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, all of who had been bailed out from the government multiple times because of the way they do things, had a really great idea. And then they make a good product. I have nothing to do with the product, but here's the way they built the car. I am going to build this car. And I am going to charge this amount of money. And people are going to buy it. If they don't buy it at the end of the year, we're going to do a blowout. And Chris, that's totally fine. Here's what the Japanese did instead. They went out there and they asked people, what kind of car would you like? Here's a couple of appearances, this versus this. Which one do you like? Would you make any changes to this? How much are you willing to pay for this? And after they did all of that, then they took their engineers and said, here's what our client wants. Go figure out how to make this work. Okay, so they asked first, they produced the product. And then Toyota, which was a nothing company that nobody ever heard about, became like the world leader in producing high quality cars. And everybody's manufacturing processes throughout the entire world that studied Japanese manufacturing all changed to follow Toyota.
Yeah, you take it. I see it. So I see it here in Florida. So I live in Florida. My wife and I are amusement park junkies. We go to Disney, SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, Universal Studios, and we see it even there. And if there's anybody that's a shareholder in Disney, listen up. You're getting beat because Universal is actually asking the customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a reason that's so every amusement park biggest year ever was 2019. Makes sense. 2020 hit and they're still coming back from that. But Universal's up 2% since 2019. Disney is down 18%. I go to both of them the same amount of times. And guess how many times Universal actually asked me about something? Every single time while I'm there, not just a post not just a post-op, but how was your experience while I'm there? So just even to that, even in this, and I was looking at it the other day and I was like, wait, it feels so different. So I'm a data guy. I go and find the attendance figures because I'm a data guy. I'm up at like 11 o'clock at night looking at the attendance figures. It's like, makes sense why they're down. They're not asking their customers what they want.
Nope.
Universal's up. They're asking their customers what they want. Simple as that. Simple as that.
And it's the perfect thing. Every time you go to Universal, they ask you, what are you interested in? Disney says, here's what we think you should think and feel, and here's what we're going to produce. Without asking people.
There's very few companies that can do it. Apple did it. There's very few companies that can just point blank say, here's what you want. And everybody's like, yes, that's what I want. Very, like, off the top of my head, there's not any other company other than Apple. And I'm not saying Apple still does it, but they did it. There was a 10-year period of time where they did it. And it was those first 10 years when Steve Jobs came back. They put out those colorful in-the-box Macs right when he came back. And then by the end of that 10 years, they put out the iPhone. It was like, here, we know you want this, over and over and over again with those colorful Macs, then with the iPods, and then with the iPhones. Very few companies can do that. For all every metric in the world says that they shouldn't have been successful doing that, but they had it figured out somehow. They're not telling everybody how. So, Alonzo, it's your birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. So, I would like to give a gift.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And by I mean we.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yes. Unfortunately, it's not for you.
Okay, I'm still listening.
It is for everybody else. So,
okay, I think I know what this is about.
In honor of Alonzo's birthday, we're going to do a 30% discount on our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Both versions, the live version, the non-live version, across the board, 30% off payment plans, full payments. With the discount code Alonzo Birthday, all one word. I'll put it in the chat box here. But Alonzo Birthday, to celebrate Alonzo's birthday, mainly because I forgot it yesterday. But
well, it's done in my honor. I can take this as well, but as long as everyone can benefit, I'm excited about that too.
We like to celebrate things here. All right, celebrate Alonzo's birthday with 30% off with discount code. Sorry, I talk out loud while I talk.
Make sure I talk to my cat, so that's not a bad thing. Talking loud.
There we go.
She understands me. I know she does.
All right, I got that in the chat box. But so again, 30% off for Alonzo's birthday. I got the link in there. The discount code is Alonzo Birthday. I try to keep it simple. Take advantage of that while it's available. But back to our topic. So, we're talking about the skills. How do you know what you need? You ask the customer. You find out what the customers actually want. AKA, okay, you want a job? Go figure out what that job entails. And in the same vein with the topic of discussion, you were obviously talking about this as part of your previous monologues here. I mean that nicely. But there's got to be a vision to this, and that's where this asking the customer or asking the client comes in handy, isn't it?
Absolutely. You have to ask the client. And, I always thought a little bit differently than other people. So when Apple came out with their Think Differently campaign about 30 some years ago, it actually resonated with me. And I remember when I was in school, And all the people asked the other students, what do you think I should learn? What do you think I should learn? What do you think I should learn? And I went, Mike, what do you think I should learn? And this was when I went to school to become a nurse practitioner. And I said, let me do this. Let me go speak to the medical director of 3 different hospitals, what he wants or she wants in the perfect nurse practitioner. Let me speak to about 10 physicians that have been in practice for 30 years and ask what they want. Let me go talk to some people at an insurance company who actually pay the nurse practitioners through reimbursement, doctors and physicians, what they need to see. And then I went out there and I found, those 1% physicians that were in the area that are in the highest salaries. And I asked them, you're going to hire a nurse practitioner. What are the key traits that you want? And what would you do to pay them more than the rest? And they told me. So the rest of the class that I went to school with was asking each other, who had no idea because they never had the job left. And I went there. Now in my architecture career, I have some rules. An associate architect is a trainee. They don't know what they don't know yet. They get paid $60,000 to $100,000 a year to be trained. If they graduate their training program, they're promoted to a regular architect. If not, they're fired and they do something else. I don't know, start a TikTok channel or go find a new career. Then you've got the regular architect and the senior architect. I've got people getting senior architect jobs that have never worked in tech before in their life. People are starting to know at that level what to do. Now, if they're successful, they become a principal architect. And the principal architect or the distinguished architect is like, look, you've made it to the top. And if you don't want to move into management, you take one of these 2 roles. Because they're director level roles or senior director level roles. And you can take that and ask those people. Any of them are going to be experts on how to get there. I was a principal architect in 2 years. Why? Because I asked the VPs that were hiring the architect, what do you want? The rest of my peers were asking each other, what do you think I should do? They were focusing on one set of skills and thinking I was focused on something different. It's not because I was smarter. It's because I asked the people that were at the top how to get there, and they asked the people at the bottom how to get there. Well, I'd rather get my advice from the top 1% than the bottom. They're at the top 1% for a reason. They've already made it. So that was my thinking pattern. Now, I've got to tell you, I've taken people like Daniel Boso, who didn't graduate high school and gotten him a great cloud architect job at JP Morgan Chase. Jennifer Ema, for example, a mental health tech who's now working at JP Morgan Chase. Yvonne Tamba, who was working as a waiter, who's now working at AWS. And of course, he got hired as a real architect, not an associate architect. What a great kid, by the way. Balwinder, who's a stay-at-home mom, who's now working at Microsoft. Al Legistra, who was basically a sales rep, now a senior architect at Deloitte. And I could give you probably hundreds of examples of this over the ages of people that have reached these levels that never worked in tech because they asked people that were experts in the field, what do I need to learn? And I can show you stacks and stacks of 10x AWS certified people that will never get there because they've asked other AWS certified people that have never had the job. So all I'm saying is you got to get what customer requirements from your actual customer. Don't make it what you think it is.
Yeah, there was something that you said earlier, and I know I think it's the biggest problem that almost every single person has when it comes to their skill set and figuring out how to use their previous skill set. And I think that's having the humility to get over that fact that you need to not highlight your CCIE, for example, or having the humility to recognize, yeah, that thing that I invested a whole lot of time, effort, and energy into doesn't benefit me anymore moving forward. So I need to just put it in the closet in the top corner on the top shelf, away from everyone's sight. I'd like for us to talk about that a little bit, because I think that's one of the biggest problems. And it's not that I don't think people are purposefully being, and I may use some rough words here, but I don't think people are being purposefully stubborn about it.
No.
They're they're proud of it. They're proud of what they did. It holds value for them. It did take a lot of time, effort, and energy, but it doesn't do you any good anymore. It's now you've probably reached a point where it's going to hold you back. So
Yeah.
how
You can't rest on your laurels. Whether
right, and in this case, usually that phrase is used in a sense where someone has accomplished a feat that they're trying to ride that wave for the rest of their life, without doing anything else. But it's still that phrase is still serves the same purpose here, but kind of in a different sense. It's resting on your laurels in a different sense. Because most people, they're not trying to just say, okay, I've accomplished this, I don't have to do anything else. They're saying, I've accomplished this, I'm going to do all these other things, and I'm still going to highlight this thing that I've done in the past, because this is my maximum. This is what I perceive to be the maximum value. This is my peak. This thing back here behind me is the most important thing that I've ever done. And
it's a perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I'd like to hear from both of y'all about that, because again, it's not, I don't think people are doing it stubborn. Like they're not purposely being stubborn about it. They're not trying to do it in a way to keep from having to do more. They're proud of it. How can we get beyond that?
We have to think about what our actual client wants, not what we want. For example, I had a friend worked as an architect for AWS. Great person, by the way. And I asked him if he actually touches the technology, and he says, well, I don't have to, but I like to test stuff with a confirmation script sometimes. And I said, could you have another engineer do that for you? Of course, there's lots of people who will do it for you. And I said, why do you do it? And he says, I like it. Anyway, he's no longer in an architect position, and he's now in a sales engineering position, which is good for him. He really didn't want to be an architect, and he's no longer an architect anymore. And his focus was not on the architecture, it was on everything else. And this person actually made a LinkedIn post, and it showed the difference in his thinking of his old life versus his new life. And it's a really good guy, someone I actually respect. And he said there's two kinds of sales engineers. The sales engineers that know how to build your solution and design it and make it work right. And there's sales engineers that'll buy you lunch, buy you dinner, and take you golfing. And they'll bring in other people like me to make the technology work right. Which one are you? Now, respect the person, good person, smart person. But here's the thing. The sales engineer is paid for how much they sell. I'm going to say this again. The sales engineer is paid for how much they sell. If they sell a lot, they can earn $500,000 that year. If they sell nothing because they're wowing people with their tech, they get fired. So in this person was pretending he loved the tech. So in his world, I'm a sales engineer and I'm the engineer. Great. Maybe he shouldn't have been a sales engineer. Maybe he should have been a back-end engineer. The reality was you're paid for what you sell. So he was judging himself based on back-end engineering in a position where his manager is going to get fired if he can't sell enough. Where he's going to get fired if he can't sell enough. Where if he sells 20% over their quota, he might earn $50,000 more a year. Double his quota, might earn a $300,000 bonus in restricted stock grants and get promoted. But to him, the tech was important. Doesn't make him dumb, doesn't make him a bad guy, doesn't make him anything. He's a great guy and he's super smart. But he's not focused on the needs of his career. He's focused on what he finds valuable.
And I think it's very important to realize that it's like, who are you working for? So are you working for yourself? Then you have your own strategy and other means to achieve your goal. But if you're working on someone else's dime to focus on the business, then you need to pivot that thinking accordingly. And let's look back at what Chris and you had talked about, is that, okay, it's really fun to be able to laud and look at your strengths and how you've leveraged them via certifications and so forth. but like any lesson learned in life, life is a moving river. Technology is a moving river. How the organizations are moving forward is never in a static situation. So why would your thinking be the same? Just like the water over the heavy rocks, it's going to pass right over it, move on down the stream. You're going to be left behind, solidified with your heavy thinking about how you used to do this and how I'm good at that. Is it relevant to where the business is going and how to get there? And when you look at that perspective, it's not as useful, it's not as valuable as you think when you look outside yourself. So it's important to adapt to the needs of the business with your ability to provide value as it moves forward, whether it be in a certification, whether it be in continued knowledge, the ability to provide solutions, be a SME in something, not what they need now, but in what they're going to need in the near future, so that once you move and you align your trajectory with the needs of the business, you're going to hit that point on the grid right there and say, boom, this is where I can provide maximum value and continue to do so in the future.
Ooh. Now, Alonzo just added some strategy into the conversation. And he's darn right for it. So let's think about this. Every action will have a reaction. Give you a business example, and I don't think there's a right or wrong. The U.S. auto workers are on strike right now. I don't know enough about it. Here's what I can tell you will happen. The strike will get solved. And more auto production will occur in Mexico and other countries than it does in the U.S. today, because the company will adapt to the new stresses that it has. I don't know enough about the specifics. I'm not an auto worker. I'm not there in the negotiating room. I don't have a perspective of right or wrong. But I can tell you right now, much of this auto manufacturing will move out of the U.S. because the car manufacturers are going to say our labor costs went up. We're afraid of this happening again. We've got to go someplace else where someone's going to want the job. We've got NAFTA signed. It'll go to Mexico. But you can see the implications of that. I'm not saying right or wrong. It's just, you can see it. Artificial intelligence now exists. Blog writers, the best of the best will still be here. The average writer will be replaced by generative AI. Software developers, the best of the best, we're always going to need them. The bottom 50%, AI can do their job already. They're going to be gone when AI gets better. And the best of the best will leverage AI. Start looking at not where we are now. Where's our target going to be in the future? All these new technologies, generative AI, this, and this. Architects is the greatest thing in the world. Why? We don't touch the technology anyway. We're determining how to build a strategy, what technologies impact the business. So the more techs come out, the more jobs occur for our architects. That's why I no longer sell an engineering program. Not that I don't love engineers. I just think the engineering careers are really going to be beaten up in the future, where architect careers are going to go up. More cloud architect jobs, more enterprise architect jobs, more AI architect jobs, more security architect jobs. Look at what's going on and predict the future based on science, based on data, and based upon future vision and strategy. So I like that Alonzo also added that. That's, some critical tech career coaching tips. And don't study the skills of the past.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're starting to go down little rabbit holes here, but if we're going to talk about this topic of be prepared for the future and make sure that you're going to be able to serve their needs in the future. What we're experiencing with AI and with coding and developers and engineers and everything is very reminiscent of previous industrial revolutions.
Yep.
I'm from Mississippi. We farm, and I can tell you there's not many farms that employ hundreds or thousands of people anymore. There's literally tens of people that manage farms of thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. And why is that? Because of advances in technology. Plenty of other examples, whether it be textiles or anything, transportation, things advance, careers change, needs of organizations change. I started college, or after I started college is when they started to introduce coding classes to college. Now they're teaching coding in some elementary schools. And these are roles and these are responsibilities that are quickly going to be, they're not going to be gone. They're just going to be, as a percentage of jobs, the percentage of the jobs as a whole, these are the types of roles that are just going to disappear as a percentage, just like the farmers. Again, Mississippi, big farming state, has lots of economic problems. It's because they couldn't figure out how to provide opportunities for future growth for their population when when that revolution occurred, and therefore people moved out. But very reminiscent of what we're seeing with the AI is you got to be prepared to be able to do what the companies, aka customers, actually need, and that's people to use these tools that are being developed and know how to use them to serve their customers and their clients. So I just wanted to talk about that for a second since you guys brought up being prepared to show them what you're able to do as the future marches on.
And I love the content. Nathaniel Sosa actually put something in the chat box, and I want to use that because he's 50% there, and I want to actually describe the different changes and put it more of an architecture context. He said it's like being a baseball player. So if you can pop that in there, Crows. So Nathaniel Sosa, great job with this, by the way. And he said it's like being a baseball player wanting to play football. You have to leave your bat and glove at home. Yes. And use the equipment in the new role. That's half of it. You are right, and I'm glad you put it here. But let's look about it holistically. The first thing we need to do is figure out what position. So let's say we've got a baseball player that's a first baseman. And now we have a person that wants to be an NFL running back. Well, the first baseman runs only as far as first base, and they run straight, forward, directional. Now we're dealing with a football player that's going to have to move side to side and forward and backward. And we have a different speed that we need to be competitive in football than baseball. So we've got to train in new energy systems, and we've got to train new movement patterns. Now, while we're at it along the way, the football player may need more strength than the baseball player. The baseball player needs to be stronger in what's called rotation. To swing that bat is rotation. The football player might need to be stronger in anti-rotation, pushing somebody out of the way that's directly in front of them. Now, they both may throw a ball. Good. Yes. But is there a different kinetic form to actually throw the football than there actually is the baseball? There's going to be some changes there. Now, strength, speed, power, agility, the energy systems the person produces to produce energy, not only do we have to use new gear, but we have to train everything different between the first position and the second position. Likewise, if we had a pitcher and we were going to become a lineman, it's another set of new skills. And it's another set of power and strength and size needs. So we have to leave all that stuff behind. Now, what can we carry over from baseball? Well, you got to be pretty athletic to be pretty good at baseball, right? Got to be able to catch, got to be able to avoid things, not get hit, got to be able to speed up and accelerate and have hand-eye coordination. That stuff is going to carry over directly. The ability to throw is going to carry over somewhat directly. So it's a difference of taking those lessons that are learned, the ability to play in front of, a 50,000 person stadium. That baseball player now can carry that stuff all over. And I bet you that baseball player received some media training if they're a pro baseball player to learn how to talk to the media, and that's going to work perfectly in football. And they may have a manager that's working on their branding, and that's going to carry over too. So the key is to take as much as you can with you, all that's going to serve you in the future, and get rid of everything else. You're not going to use that bat anymore, the glove, the ball. Get rid of it. It no longer serves you. Move on to your new goal. Really like that you put that in, Nathaniel. I just wanted to really crispen that up a little bit to try and show all the other things, because I'm all about architecting careers. Truth be told, I'm about architecting athletes too. I'm about architecting healthcare plans and wellness plans for people. I'm all about architecture. Very astute comment he put in there.
Yeah, I want to add a little bit to this. So, yeah, the immediate thing that comes to mind with this is you think about all your baseball two-sport athletes that you've got out there, and so I want to do a quick rundown, and it kind of supports what you're saying here. So you got Bo Jackson, football, baseball. Deion Sanders, football, baseball. Michael Jordan, basketball and baseball, very questionable on the baseball career decision, but he did that because of some life choices or some life situations with, like, after his dad died. But then you got Tim Tebow. Those are the first four that come to mind. Every single one of them played outfielder in baseball, which directly correlates to run as fast as you can. I believe all of them were center fielder and left fielder, which in baseball are the one. If I know, it's either left field or right field has to have the most speed. I can't remember, but every single one of those two-star or two-sport professional athletes played outfielder, the one that has to run the farthest, the fastest. And so I just I found that interesting that it just so happens that these guys that were stars in football or in the NFL or in the NBA, if they played professional baseball, they were outfielders. Well, I mean, which means that they obviously grew up playing outfielder, which probably helped them develop into the athletes. I mean, Deion Sanders being a defensive back, he's got to run all the way down the field to beat the wide receivers. So anyway, it's just an example, just a high level example of what skills can you take from one to the other that's going to be useful, and that being a successful outfielder was probably helpful in being a good defensive back. Mm-hmm. And John Elway, he didn't play professional baseball, but he was also an outfielder. He had to make those throws all the way from the outfield wall into the infield. And I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So, yeah, I'm always fascinated by the two-sport arguments about that. So let me see. I want to see if there's anything else here in the chat box. Okay, what Richard said, for all international viewers who do not know football, aka American football, hit me up later for sports translations. I mean, honestly, outside the U.S., I don't know. Is there even such a thing as a two-sport professional athlete outside the U.S. or outside North America? I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind is soccer, aka football. And
I know I've seen a few rugby players that would put some damage on some American football players, even without the cards and everything else. So that would be an interesting translation.
And in general, the reason you don't have that many multi-sport players is it's near impossible to be great at two different things. You know, Michael Jordan was incredible at basketball, but was he that good at baseball?
No. Yeah, Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson are really the only ones.
And you know, I always thought it was a farm animal, but somebody did a translation to me. They talk about a goat. When I hear sheep and goats, I think about a farm animal. But apparently there's this guy, Tom Brady.
Talk about sheeps, Mike.
I already know where this is going.
But apparently there's this guy, Tom Brady, that everybody called the GOAT. So I mean, he doesn't go bah, bah or anything like that. But he was considered one of the kid told me that it's not goat as an animal, it's goat as in greatest of all time. So
Correct.
was his focus on football, or was his focus on being a farmer and playing two sports?
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to our topic here, and I want to encourage anybody that might have any questions related to this topic to put them in the chat box, because we want to make sure that we answer any of your questions. And Tyrone, can you put the link to Alonzo's birthday special back there in the chat box? I want to make sure everybody knows that it's Alonzo's birthday so that they can annoy him with some happy birthday messages. And they can also take advantage of that 30% off for his birthday that we've got going on. There it is, Tyrone. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, if you've got any questions about what we're talking about, please feel free to put them there in the chat box. Mike or Alonzo, anything else that we want to talk about on this topic?
I think one of the things, have the courage to step out your comfort zone. And one of the things that I truly believe is that the moment you become comfortable is the moment you stop growing. And life has never been, to me, a experience of comfort, but an experience of pushing yourself beyond the limits.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You're back.
That edify who you are as a person. So get comfortable. And I say all this for the cliche, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's how we grow into who we're meant to be. And that may not be a goal, but rather a journey into life itself.
And you've got to be what your client wants.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer, but I let it expire. But I wanted to learn how to be a better coach. So I became a strength and conditioning specialist and it went through this miserable certification, which is what the people that train pro athletes have. And, we used to say train people the way you want to be treated yourself. But it's not really treat people the way you want to be treated. It's treat people the way they wanted to be treated. So I'm a pretty good strength coach. I had a 700-pound deadlift in college, 500-pound squat in high school. My wife said to me many years ago, I want to be strong. And I trained her. And I trained her the way I wanted to be trained. How was I trained? I had some guy from the Marine Corps that was a drill sergeant that was my uncle, screaming at me until I did stuff and did it great, along with my cousin. I loved it. He'd scream at me. I would lift heavier. I trained my wife one day trying to show her the way I was trained. And she did deadlift 275 pounds that day, which was pretty good. And then she fired me as her trainer right after that. And she said, Mike, just because you would want a SEAL team leader or a Marine, pushing, go harder, I just want to enjoy my workout. And it's no fun like this. This was many years ago, probably 20 years ago. And it taught me a good lesson. You've got to be what your client wants. It was a constant reminder. I can't make Chris and Alonzo follow my dietary habits.
No.
I promise you, they're not going to both wake up. They're not going to eat their eggs cooked in olive oil and have blueberries and have a green drink made out of spinach juice every morning. And
exactly. Let's remember let's remember how our Chris and Mike and I had our Thanksgiving Day treats in our what we had. Remember that, and then go back to Mike's version and see which one you like the most.
Yeah, remember how similar mine and Alonzo's were. It's like,
If I wanted to get a gift for me, I could probably give that to Alonzo because we're too similar, and he'd probably like it.
Yeah.
If I got a gift for my wife, Alonzo's wife would probably like it because those two could be the same person. In fact, when I spoke to one of them, I actually closed my eyes and I couldn't tell who was who. So in those cases, it would work. But, Chris and Alonzo are a bit different. That thing that Alonzo would like, Chris might not like. And I'd rather get Chris what Chris wants than ask Chris what Alonzo wants, because that's a little ridiculous. But, the ridiculousness of that is how so many of us actually manage our careers. This is what I love, and of course, that's what my manager's manager is going to want from me.
So what about all right, so now now that we've gotten to this point, we're past all right, I'm letting these things go. I'm letting the CCIE go. It doesn't serve me any good anymore. I'm letting these things that don't serve my future career go. Now I know, and now I also know what my customer wants. I know what potential employers want. How do I put all this together? There's got to be some prioritization to developing these skills that I need for a new career. What does that look like?
So we have to break down all the skills into critical, should have, and then nice to have. Mm-hmm. The critical stuff is the most important. If you don't have these critical skills, you can't get the job. That's your biggest focus. For an architect, I'm going to tell you right now, it's sales, it's presentations, it's executive communication, it's CXO relevancy, it's leadership, it's stakeholder management, and it's business acumen. Can't get the job with it. Coincidentally, it's missing from every other than our training program, because they're teaching the tech, which is somebody else's job. Now, next, you've got to be able to design stuff, and it's got to work. And that means networking, data center, and cloud stuff for the cloud architect. And guess what? For an enterprise architect, what are they dealing with? Networks, data centers, clouds, and some business applications. Same thing of a cloud architect. It's all the same stuff. Same stuff we've been working with for the last couple of decades is that. Now, nice to haves. Do you need them? No. But they're nice to have. So most of your time goes into the critical stuff, because without it, you can't get the job. The rest of your time goes into the important stuff. And as far as the nice to haves, I wouldn't worry about it. And if you do, make it 5 to 10% of all your training time. Now, I learned this by being a firefighter paramedic, which was a great part of my career. When I took my EMT course, which was the precursor to the paramedic course, they gave us a very valuable lesson. They said, from the time the trauma occurs to the time the surgery needs to occur within 1 hour. They said, if you can find your patient, treat them, and get them to the ER and then ready for surgery within the hour, they're going to live, in most cases, if it's a serious trauma. They said, if it takes you 1 hour and 15 minutes, chances are they're going to die. Okay. So, gave me my goals. Here's my time window. And then they said, you guys need to prioritize. If somebody's spurting blood out of their neck, you better stop that real fast. Otherwise, in 3 minutes, you got a problem. So, that must be addressed before you can think about moving. Must, because it's critical. Now, there might be some other stuff that are important. Maybe somebody had a femur fracture or a pelvic fracture, and you want to put traction on it so they can survive the ride to the hospital. Again, super important. Take care of that before you go. Now, what about someone who's been shot, but they've got a boo-boo on their finger because they punched somebody to try and defend themselves, and now they got a cut on their finger? Don't treat it. Just take them to the hospital and get them into surgery. The boo-boo on their hand that you could put a Band-Aid on is not an issue right now. Now, sure, when they get to the hospital after surgery, they're going to put a Band-Aid on it. And there used to be an expression, and they said, don't deliver a beautifully packaged patient to the hospital dead. And what they meant by that is when people are new and they don't know how or what to prioritize, I've seen it. I've seen a new EMT get on site, and it's a pretty serious 911 or emergency call. And the person sees the rash on the elbow from the motorcycle person that fell down, and they're working on that. They see bleeding on the hand, and what they missed is a life-threatening thing. So triage. First this, then this. Then the nice to haves are like the little putting a Band-Aid on the fingers. Same thing for your career. If you don't have the business, sales, presentation, communication skills, you can't get the job. That's your first. If you don't have the technical design skills, doesn't matter how good, you can't get the job. So that's kind of in that medium high priority. If you learn to code in your past life, okay, it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to help you, but it's not going to hurt you. If you knew how to build it, not going to hurt you, not going to help you. So if you want to build it as practice, go build it as practice, but only after you've got the other skills. Only after. Now, there are people that thinking that building something is going to teach them how to design, but it won't. And anybody that doesn't believe me, go work on an airplane engine and then tell me how to fly an airplane. Or hammer some nails and go build the deck in your backyard. Maybe put a little cement in your front house. And then convince somebody to pay you to design a 30-story hotel because you did a little construction projects on your own. While we're at it, you set up a Linux and a router in your house. Now convince an internet service provider to ask you to design their edge routing. Building versus designing are very different skills. I have no problem with people that know both. It's great. But one doesn't teach you the other. So in your career, you need to focus on the skills for your career, not somebody else's. And why do you think I hate to see people get 10x AWS certified? Why do I hate it so much? Is there anything wrong with an AWS certification? No. But now I've got an architect that learned DevOps. It's not part of their job. What weren't they learning? Sales, leadership, executive presence, business acumen. They learned somebody else's career. Now they learn maintenance, which is sysops. Then they learn this, what's this, the thing that I disable in all my TVs because I don't want it listening to me. Then they get certified. And what's that Amazon thing where you talk to it? And it plays music? I disabled it in every device. Alexa, yeah. And then they get a certification in Alexa, not your job. And then when they're done that, they get a developer certification. And guess what? We don't code. And then they learn that. Meanwhile, the competition that wants to get ahead is learning the skills for their job. This nice person and was trying so hard, learned the skills from everybody else's job. And who gets hired? And then if you're the hiring manager, and you see dog walker, lawyer, doctor, accountant, and airplane pilot, are you going to hire them or are you going to say, I don't know what they are. They can't be good at anything. They've been trying to spread themselves too thin. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was going to say, Igor's got a question here in the chat box that I wanted to bring up. So Igor says, how to persuade other people that you are not a person from your current job when they have a predefined opinion of you. Some strategies or tricks.
So there's going to be two things. There's one which I like to call being typecast. And then there's the strategy. I'm going to tell you what I did. So the typecast thing is, I love, what do you call it? Sylvester Stallone movies. Rocky, Rambo. Wow. Good stuff. Okay. I love it. No, nobody's going to ask Sylvester Stallone to make a romantic comedy next to Jennifer Aniston. Because everybody sees him as the big, muscly, burly guy. So there are times where you need to change jobs. Meaning you're working at one company, they see you as something, and no matter what you do, they're not. And then there are other times where you can change it. I was working before I got my super elite architect job. When I joined Cisco, I was working as a sales engineer, which was basically doing pre-sales architecture work. And I said to my manager, I wanted to move into this business executive role. And he said, no. And I looked at him and he said, Mike, here's what I want you to understand. We don't allow the engineers to move into this kind of sales. He said, what happens is we find that the engineers are so bad at it that they end up getting fired and then we lose engineers. So we have a policy right around in this region that you can no longer move from one role to the other. And I said, well, what if I were to get an MBA? We don't allow you to move from one role to the other. So I said, okay. So the next day, here's what I did, because I didn't want to leave this company because I loved it. I looked at all the executives and I noticed the kind of suits they were wearing. So you know what I did, Igor? I went from this kind of shirt that I would wear to a suit every day of the week. Then my manager, who knew that I was a multicast expert, said, Mike, could you set up this multicast? And I'm like, I don't know source-specific multicast. Of course I did. I said, but I don't know source-specific multicast. But you know what? There's this guy, Bill Williamson, that does. Let me go call him. My manager's like, yeah, that's a really smart idea. Go call Bill. So I did. Then my manager says, we need you to do this proof of concept. And this is when I was a sales engineer. And I said, I'm much better at designing it. Can I go find myself some engineers that know how to do this stuff? I don't know how to configure it. Yeah, sure, go do it. Now, each day for about 6 months, I started to, and then what would happen is one day my manager came on site and he saw this like 16-person team that I built. And I'm taking him to lunch, I'm taking him to dinner, I'm talking to him about his problem. My manager's like, wow, I never saw this in you. Then my manager's manager comes one day to check in. And he sees me leading this team, and he sees me doing this, and he sees me doing everything other than the job that they paid me for. And the guy says to me, he's like, Gibbs, we got a good deal on you. We're only paying you like $150. You're doing the job of a $350,000 systems engineering director. Thank you. He says, I see a big future for you. And then poof, I'm in a better job. So I basically walked, talked, and lived the job that somebody else was. And I convinced them they needed to hire me for that. And then I ultimately changed departments where they had a big position for me and the process was there. But that's exactly what I did. I showed them that I wasn't who they thought I was, which meant I hung out with a new set of people. I used a new set of terminology. And there. So if you're not, whatever's going to happen is going to have to take this entire change. Igor, I know you, and you are super smart and super capable. But it will take a change in perspective. It will take a change in thinking. And you're super smart. It will take a change in clothes. It will take a change in finesse. And when you do all of that, that's all people will see. And if you ever seen somebody go from like a senior manager to a VP at a tech company, all of a sudden they have perfectly white teeth. And they used to say certain words and they no longer say certain expressions. And they went from a Hugo Boss suit to an Armani suit. And you can see their postures changed and they lost 30 pounds. You can see that, and those are the things that they actually need to do. So be what you want to be. Dress for the job you want. Communicate for the job you want, not the one you have. And that is a really great question.
I'm going to answer it the harsh way now.
Go ahead, Chris.
Sometimes you just have to cut bait and cut people. Because you may not be able to change their predefined or preconceived notions of you. That's the tough answer.
Yep,
that's very true. That's
what we talked about, Chris, when we talked about being typecasted. I think and sometimes changing companies. Sometimes you have to do that too.
And it's
I just wanted to be a little bit more blunt. Be like, sometimes just cut it all. Just rip it off.
You know what? Sometimes it may end up where you try very hard to convince them, rebrand yourself, do everything that you're supposed to do to be the part and also look the part. but you may have to, like Chris says, cut bait, go out there, see what's being offered to you. But one thing that I definitely want to underscore not to do is that once you get the attention of someone who understands your value, they may try to counter that. We'll say, we realize what you're doing right now. We want to give you the job. Never, ever, ever go back. If they do not realize your potential, your value, then they won't do it in the future.
Nope.
So never, be prepared to walk into your future elsewhere. And remember that rejection doesn't mean that it could be just redirection. So never take it as you're not able to do the job. They just realize your value for what they initially paid you in when you took the position, and they won't see you as anything else. So keep that in mind.
And to put that in a little perspective, it will happen. Maybe not the first time. Maybe it's 10 years down the road. You're going to be somewhere. They're not going to value you. You cut bait. You're out of there. Yep. And you notify them. It happened to me. Literally told my employer that I was leaving, and they immediately offered to turn over complete control of the company that's worth $125 million to me, with full control without any oversight. And I'm like, nope. They will. That was a difficult no, but it goes to exactly what Alonzo said. It was difficult but easy at the same time. Like, because I knew if they hadn't already, is it really? Are they really going to do that? Like, yes, it might say it on paper, it might say it in name, but am I really going to be in that position? No.
Yeah, it's like any relationship. If there's something that you're looking for that they haven't submitted or given you, either they won't or they don't have the capability to do so. And so do you really want to stick around and somehow hope, which is not a strategy, that they will value or see your worth and move accordingly? Like Chris says, that's ergo, cut bait, move on.
Yeah. So.
Absolutely.
All right. We got a couple more questions here that I want to get to before we wrap up the show. Helen asks, can you get a job if you have a cloud practitioner? Can you do a job in sales?
So, Helen, let's talk about this. Certifications have zero or nothing to do with your ability to get hired. Can you get a job in sales? If you have the business acumen to be able to show somebody that the value of the solution is greater than its cost, if you have the CXO relevancy to communicate to the CEO and find out what they want and present to the CEO versus the CFO, and you know how to schmooze them and you know how to communicate them, sure. If you know how to negotiate, sure. If you know how to deliver the right presentations, sure. If you know how to do the right executive briefing, sure. If you know how to build the right business cases and ROI models, absolutely. If you know about how to respond to the RFIs, RFPs, and RFQs, sure. If you know how to do that, sure, you can get a job in sales. Your cloud practitioner is irrelevant. So those are and I'll say you're going to need strong levels of executive presence. Nothing in an AWS certification will get anybody a job ever. I wish it was the case, and here's why. Here's what a certification is. Here's the name of a proprietary thing which you can never use with your customer, and here's how to configure it. Sales rep doesn't configure, they sell. Cloud architect doesn't configure, they sell. They design, they present. So Helen, of course you can. You can get a great job in cloud sales and have no certifications whatsoever. But don't assume an AWS certified solution architect professional will be enough for anything. But if you've got all these skills and then you wrap a nice bow around it by doing the AWS certification, absolutely. I've seen people without certifications get all kinds of cloud architect jobs, and we've helped them. But they have the right skills to be a great architect. I've helped people get sales jobs, and they have the right job to be selling. But the certification is not going to do anything for you. but it's a great question. But if you get the right training and all those other things I told you, you can get an enormously potential, very high paying, wonderful cloud sales job. Wonderful.
I couldn't agree more. And Helen, as someone who actually worked hard, which wasn't, I didn't have to put as much emphasis in that cloud practitioner. Unless you're already established in AWS, it can afford you some modicum of value, but outside of that, it's not really relevant. I'm sorry to tell you. And I never was able to leverage any value out of that certification. So, I took the time, the resources, and the money to do it, but it was sunk costs. And unfortunately, I just had to write it off as a learning experience.
All right. Let's see. Dennis asks, which is the best company for startup position as a cloud
Certified Solutions Architect Associate.
Okay.
That's what I'm guessing.
So Dennis, let's answer your question. There are no jobs anywhere in the world for a certified solution architect associate that is a certification there. Now there are jobs for cloud architects, solutions architects, and enterprise architects. Where you fit in and whoever will hire you is definitely going to be the right place where you start. You can't pick one. It's not like one company is better than others. Now, Dennis, there is no job that you can get with a certified solution architect professional only. It is just a certification. The key is skills. If you'd like to be a solution architect or a cloud architect, I'm going to offer you two things. One is Tyrone, please pop in the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job document that lists every skill that Dennis needs to learn, because I want him to get a job as a cloud architect because he wants one. And I want him to be great at it, and I want him to get a job that changes his life. Two, Dennis, please join us tomorrow on our completely free How to Become the Ultimate Cloud Architect webinar. And when you're there,
you're a day ahead of yourself, Mike.
I'm a day ahead of myself. Okay, on Thursday, we've got a Cloud Architect webinar. On this webinar, not only will we tell you every single skill we have that you need to be an architect, but it'll be on Zoom, which is my favorite. And if you join us on Zoom, you can ask me questions live, and I can interview you. I can assess your competency and help you do a gap analysis and tell you exactly what you need in your specific position. So please download the free guide. My team will pop it in there, Tyrone popped it in there for you, YouTube, and come to the webinar on Thursday. And tomorrow, we've got a cloud competing career question and answer session. You can also ask us then, and we'd love to help you.
Yeah. All right. So we don't have any more questions. So I'll ask Mike and Alonzo to give us any last words. But before I do, I want to make sure that all of you are aware of our I want to ask all of you to sign up for our mailing list so that you can make sure you don't miss out on all the things that we're doing. So Tyrone, if you could also put the link for our mailing list in the chat box. We've got our Cloud Computing Career Q&A tomorrow at 2:00 Eastern Time. We've got our How to Become the Ultimate Cloud Architect webinar, like Mike just said, on Thursday at 1:00. We've got next Tuesday's Head in the Cloud show with special guest David Linthicum. And then, of course, every week moving forward, we're going to be doing things all the time. So make sure you sign up for that mailing list so that you get so that you don't miss out on any of those things. Let's see, we got a question here. What do I require to be a cloud security professional, and how is the job market? We'll let this be our last question, and we'll close it out.
Okay, so the first thing we need to understand, E.G., and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, is we have to determine what kind of cloud security we're interested in. Meaning, do we want to be a cloud security architect, which is one career? Do we want to be a defensive cloud security engineer? Do we want to be an offensive cloud security engineer like a penetration tester? They're all three different careers and require a completely different set of skills. And unless I know that, I can't tell you. Now, I will tell you that cloud security positions are wonderful, and there are many of them. I can tell you, as a cloud security architect, you're going to have many more opportunities at typically double the salary you would on the engineering side. And here's the reason why. You said defensive. Okay, now we just need to know whether you want to design it or build it. So if you on the security side, really what it's about is system design, like the cloud security architect. So first you need to understand the cloud. And I've trained tremendous numbers of cloud security architects. But what does a cloud security architect do? They design the organization's security. So that means, what is the security policy for the organization? You have to design that. What did the demilitarized zones look like? For example, how do you design that? Or using how many next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, what are you doing on the network side, for example? You need to figure out the organization's training needs. What do I mean? The people are the biggest vulnerability in an organization. So do I need to teach the people about anti-phishing? Do I need to teach the employees about anti-social engineering campaigns, for example? So that's what we'd have to do. Do we want to follow a specific security framework like NIST? And what does that mean? So you would obviously need to understand that as well. Do we need to follow a zero trust model? And if so, how do we integrate that zero trust framework into what we're using? Now, our wide area network, how we connect point A to point B over a distance. Is it fine to use a VPN? Do we need private? Do we need to encrypt the private line? What is the encryption strategy we need? What about access control, identity and access management? What kind of identity and access management systems are we using? Are we going to be using Active Directory? Or are we going to be connecting them to 3 or 4 or 5 other different things? Okay, so we've got to go figure that out. Do we need to encrypt the storage? If so, what kind of encryption protocols do we need to use? How are we going to secure the endpoints? Is it going to be enough to use a standard antivirus, anti-malware, host-based firewalls, host-based IDS, IPS systems? Or do we need to harden our operating systems by removing unnecessary services? For example, in closing down unnecessary ports. That's security architecture. Security engineering is the person that goes and does it. The person that designed it earns double than the person that builds it. And you can see they're an entirely different career. So security architect designs security. An application architect designs applications, and just applications. A network architect designs the network. One thing I can tell you we don't do as architects is we don't touch our customer systems. So, but it's a great question. And if you come on Thursdays, how to get your first cloud architect job webinar, we train a lot of cloud security architects. And you can ask us this question specifically for you, because there's going to be a specific set of non-technical skills that you need to be an architect as well, which is different than if you want to be an engineer. So we have to be real specific about the career you want. You can't train a solutions architect, a DevOps engineer, and a cloud admin in the same program. And by the way, there is a program out that everybody fails, and we retrain their people constantly. So, the key is understanding what to do. And that's what a cloud security architect would do, Helen. It's what a security architect would do. It's the same thing. People get confused by the term cloud. First cloud I worked on was in 1996. It was embedded in the 90s. The cloud is just somebody else's network in a data center. That's it.
All right. So we got one last question that came in. I'll let you answer it real quickly, Mike, and then we'll close up the show. What's the difference between a solution architect and an application architect?
Well, the term solutions architect is a kind of a meaningless term. And it typically means you design, present, and sell a solution for one company. Okay, what does that mean? AT&T used to have solutions architects that sold your cell phones. If I go to the Jay's Flooring in Port St. Lucie, there's a solution architect that designs what my tiles are that they sell in their store. An AWS solutions architect designs and sells only AWS stuff. A Cisco solutions architect designs and sells stuff on Cisco. An NVIDIA solutions architect designs AI and GPU and data center computing solutions on NVIDIA gear. So solutions architect means you only know one company's stuff and work on one company's stuff. That's why we use the term cloud architect, because the solutions architect will work on AWS, but 98% of companies use more than one cloud, and that's why we talk about a cloud architect. And applications architect designs applications, doesn't code them, doesn't build them, designs them. So how do we want this application to look?
All right. Okay, so we can't keep going. We've got to wrap the show up. Last question. Is it advisable to go for GCP Architect Cert for a beginner?
I don't think I would go for a GCP cert ever. Now, having said this, I love the Google Cloud. It's awesome. The Google Cloud is exceptional. Why wouldn't I do a Google cert? Okay, so here's the purpose of a certification. Eldamacy. The certification will never teach you the skills for the job, and it will never get you hired. So all it is teaching you the names that somebody made up of their services, their marketing department, and how to configure it. So, okay, I've got a virtual machine. AWS calls it EC2. Azure calls it a virtual machine. Google calls it compute engine instance. So what? It's the same thing. I've got object storage. AWS tells you it's called S3. He made these names up. Microsoft hired somebody and paid somebody to come up with the name blog. And Google came up with somebody and paid him for the name cloud storage. So if you understand object storage, you understand all cloud. So it's advisable for you to learn the cloud. Now, the only possible thing you're ever going to get out of the certification is it may help you get an interview. And I want you to think about this. The Google Cloud just made profitability right now. So 90% of all cloud stuff is not on Google. It's on AWS, Azure, and others, not Google. So the whole point of a certification is to help you get an interview. Okay. Now, Google is one of the few companies that doesn't hire people without experience in general. So Google's not going to look at you with their certification. Azure will hire you without experience. AWS will hire you without experience, but Google typically doesn't. So first, you're getting certified to get hired by a company that won't hire you. And secondly, even Google knows the certification is meaningless, which is why they won't use it to hire you. So now you're using a certification to get interviews, and instead of getting an AWS one, which works for 35, 40% of the businesses, or an Azure one, which works for the 40% of the businesses, you're now pigeonholing yourself saying, I can only interview for a small percentage of the companies. So I wouldn't do it. That's why, I'd recommend, getting an AWS or an Azure certification. Please understand, there is no part of that certification that's going to teach you anything or get you a job. But if you've got all the good skills already, it will help you get an interview. So get the thing that's going to get you the majority of the interviews. And that's not Google. It's AWS or Azure.
All right, Alonso. Any last words for us to wrap it up?
Oh, definitely. I want everyone, first of all, I hope everyone was edified by all this information. But one thing that I definitely want you all to take advantage of is my birthday discount. Please, if you really find value in this, we'd love to have you as a student and join our awesome community. Please remember to do Alonzo birthday. Tyrone, could you reemphasize that for us in the chat? There's going to be 30% off as you join us today. Please, we'd love to have you as join our community at Go Cloud Careers to get more and detailed understanding of how to become a cloud architect, how to become a better tech professional, and being able to interview with awesome capabilities that's going to blow the hiring manager out of his or her socks. So join us. We'd love to have you. Come on, let's get going with this.
All right, Mike, last words from you, and we'll wrap it up.
I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion today. It's truly my dream to make sure that everyone wants a job in cloud computing to get one, and not just any job, but to get the best job they've ever dreamed about. I've been in tech now for over 25 years, started in internal medicine, found my way to tech. Well, actually started as a firefighter paramedic, but that took me to internal medicine. That's how I paid my way through school, loved that job, and then found myself in tech. And I was lucky enough when I started my career to go find some VPs and ask them, what do you want in the perfect network architect? And they told me. And when all my peers were following what they thought was important, I was lucky enough and grateful enough to have the insight from all the people that have already made it and been there. What happened? 2 years later, I was a principal architect. My friends weren't even senior architects yet, even on the way there. So the point is, I just want you to have access to the best information. We're on a training program that has graduates working at Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Cisco, IBM, Google, Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Capgemini, Barclays Bank, British Broadcasting Company, JP Morgan Chase, and I could go on and go on and on. The best of the best of the best. And half of the people we train have never worked in tech in their life, and an architect job is their first job. And some of the people we take are engineers, and guess what? We have to work with them to do exactly what we told you today, to train and think and walk and talk like a different kind of person, because it's a different career. And we help them too. And no matter what, we get you to your goal. But the point is all of you can be great. All of you can be great. We all have greatness in us. And I bet you all of you are great at something right now. Something that makes you so great and so special. So part of career optimization is to figure out what's so special about you and figure out how to maximize that for you. I've been working with this with people forever. I like to call it finding their hidden superpower. For me, it was my ability to understand and communicate with others. It was my skill. My wife can remember anything. It's usually good, but sometimes it's a problem. But the speed that she can learn with her 170 IQ is her skill. Everybody's got a skill. And it doesn't matter what it is, leverage it and become successful. It's Alonzo's birthday. Celebrate that 30% birthday discount. We can't keep it around long. We really don't have the margins to offer that 30% off, but I'm all for celebrating big birthdays like Alonzo's birthday, my birthday, Chris' birthday. You know, we're a family around here. And Chris is muted over there.
We won't say how many years it is, so let's just...
Yeah.
May have mentioned it once upon a time, but I won't continue to do so.
And I mentioned mine once upon a time too, but you know, the key is we get better like wine.
Yeah, I showed my age yesterday talking about typewriting class.
You know, it's really funny. When did you take that typewriter course?
2003, 2004.
In 2003, Chris is taking a typewriter course. In 1990, in high school, I had a course called keyboarding. Instead of teaching us typewriters, they taught us on a keyboard, and we had 2 floppy drives. The first 5 and a half inch.
The crazy thing is, I had keyboarding 6th period and typewriting 3rd period.
Okay. There you go. And we had 1 floppy drive to install the operating system. Then once the operating system booted, we had to put another drive in to boot up Microsoft Office. And then we had another floppy drive that I used to store my Word documents on. Boy, was that fun. Those are fun times. So everyone, hope you had a good session today. Give me a hashtag cloud hired in the chat box, so I know you're here. If you've just joined us and you like the video, please give it a like. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of all the things we're going to do for you. Download the free guide on how to become the ultimate cloud architect. Sign up to our mailing list. We've got a lot of free and special big things coming in the next few weeks. Big meetings with people like David Lithicum and others. I don't want you to miss out on it. And we've got lots of free documents to share with you. And join us for the free webinar on Thursday. And tomorrow we'll answer your career questions from 2 to 4 right here on the same time, same channel. What do they call it? Same bat channel?
Same bat channel. But we're not going to date ourselves either. But also, all the students, go to Slack, check out what's going on with the latest and greatest Glassdoor salary. It has gone up and up. So you'll be impressed to see what happened there.
And also, students, don't remember your exclusive early access to the Tech Interview Mastery Program ends tomorrow. You have exclusive access to it through tomorrow. So make sure to take advantage of that. All right, everybody. See you on the Q&A. Have a great day.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
All right.